Yesterday, you were looking away when you did it, and you like put it on both of our heads because you were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You had that look like you were thinking, so you got a light bulb over your head. That was fun.
So, run with it, Mama.
All right. So, do you use your time wisely? That's a big blanket thing, right? Like, I think everyone on the surface would say no. That because we all feel like we could use our time more wisely than we do. I mean, maybe not. Maybe there's some of you.
That's a good point. It can always be used more wisely. It doesn't mean it's not being used wisely.
Wisely, right? There's just always that sense of like I could do it a little bit more wisely. So what I did was I looked up some stuff about what does it mean to use your time wisely, and I got a bunch of stuff. Thank you, Internet. I think some of it's because we live in a society that places a high value on efficiency, timeliness, because using your time wisely is a lot about efficiency. That feeling like, and I relate to that. I very recently am wrestling with ADHD diagnosis myself, and what I realize that has to do is I always feel like I have a lot to get done, and sometimes I have feelings where I make lists, I'm organized, I can knock stuff out, and I feel like I'm using my time wisely. And then there's times where I can't get my head wrapped around what I'm supposed to be doing. I keep forgetting. I start to do one thing and I go down some rabbit hole of some completely unrelated thing, and then I end up feeling like I'm not using my time wisely at all. So some of the stuff that I looked up are tools, tips, tricks for how to use your time wisely. Hi, dead girl.
So what about you guys?
Yeah.
Do you use your time wisely? And what does that mean for you? Like, I think...
Yeah, there is a question like, what does that mean for you?
I think just hearing the question read out again for the 30th time, I finally heard it.
Yeah?
It's not about... Are you using your time wisely all the time? It's just, are you mindful of how you're using your time, period? Are you using your time wisely? Like, are you aware of what you're doing with it?
Yeah. This first strategy is to conduct a time inventory. I don't know what that quite is, but it looks like...
time boxing, probably.
Yeah, keeping a track. Where did your time go each day? How was it spent? Trying to figure out what time of day is productive. One of the things I've learned about myself in recent times is I have trouble sleeping, historically. And lately I've gotten to the point where by 10 o'clock at night I'm ready for bed. But what that means is I'm up by 5 or 6. That time is golden time for me. Between like 5 in the morning and maybe 9 or 10 in the morning. If I don't squander that time, if I let myself get up and be as focused as I want to be, I can be super productive in that time. To the point where like the rest of the day feels better because I got a bunch of stuff done right out the gate. If I don't do that, because what I have done is said to myself, well, I'll do it like at the back end of the day. I'll get to that later. And that doesn't come for me. That later doesn't come for me. By the time later comes, and it's not even so much tired like I'm ready to go to bed tired. It's the inability, I lose my ability to focus in the same way that I can focus very clearly first thing in the morning. So there is something to be said for what time of the day am I most productive, right? When is your brain least energized? When was little accomplished? For me, at the end of the day is when my brain is least energized, and my brain, and I don't get much accomplished. Unless I just put to the end of the day things that are not so brain powered. By that I mean, if I can do physical things, like if I have food I need to make, or if I have straightening up to do around the house, or cleaning things, like I can get up and move my body and do things later in the day productively, effectively. And also, I've tried to balance brain work with physical work, right? So if I sit at the computer and do some focused computer time and I start to feel that fuzzy come on, that comes from like doing the... A lot of the stuff I do is repetitious and almost tedious, right? In order to get everything done. I do a lot of work keeping our website updated and getting our events posted everywhere, and that can be tedious. So rather than push through, what I've started to do is get up and do something else. Go water the plants, go fold the laundry, and that helps too. So now that I've gone on about it, let's see, what's everybody saying about their time use and productivity?
I'm just here killing. Did you want some of this?
No, go ahead.
Okay, because
Do it. I'm not in a have to eat place.
All right, let's see. Moving through your day with intention.
Yes.
I have to schedule every day for at least a week to the point. Also, what Kat said about brain time frames. I'm not very productive during the day, but at night, spot on, which helps being in SA and function on U.S. time frame. Sorry.
Right. No, that's awesome.
I think those are the comments.
Yeah, no, I love hearing about that, right? The exact opposite. So I'm not sure who made that comment, but for you, the time is more productive at night instead of in the day. And I think it's really helpful to allow ourselves to schedule things and try to use our time as it best suits us, right? Like you're on a slightly different time schedule than me in terms of what time is productive for you and going to bed and getting up, and there's the balancing of private time or personal time against productive time. And one of the things that in the list it says schedule downtime and regular breaks. That's something that I have had to work on. Part of the problem of being in your own business or not working for other people is I feel like I should be working all the time. I feel like there's always something I could be doing, and that's discouraging after a while, because the truth is I can't work 24/7. I can't work from the moment I get up to the moment I go to sleep. That's not real. Like humans, I don't think should do that. I'm not, and in the keeping with the story of Moses, like we're not productive if we don't take rest time. If I don't take some downtime, then I'm not as productive in all the rest of the time that I do try to spend working. So that's a thing about time.
You're on a roll, Mom. I'm not trying to step in the way.
I feel like I'm like taking up all the time. Establishing task and time goals. I've done it. I've done a lot of different. I've worked a lot to try to get focused and productive, or what's the best way to do it. I have not They Ask You Answer. There's a book that I was given. It's not They Ask You Answer. It's I forget the name of it, but a man who consulted with business people in order to try to help them become more productive developed this whole system that I actually utilized once. You literally go through everything you have and put everything in an in basket, and then create an in basket, out basket system. And this is whether you work for someone else or you work at home, wherever you work, right? And then he talks about creating a filing system and using all the things, like getting a labeler and getting files and file folders and making files for all of your things that don't need to be out.
Oh, this is the one you started reading downstairs.
When I was downstairs, right. Have I fallen off on some of it? Yes, but some of the habits have stuck. What the benefit of that is creating a difference between that and just writing to-do lists. Writing to-do lists that have to be written over again. Now, there's a certain degree of to-do lists that I do use, right? And I'm a pen and paper girl. Like I don't keep my stuff in electronic devices or whatever. I use pen and paper, and then
How does that go?
Pen and paper. Silly. Once a piece of paper starts to get, like, I've checked some stuff off, I've scribbled some stuff out, or like today's Monday. So I sat down and I looked at the papers I've been working with, and I made a brand new page. Now, one of the things that I've started doing that's helpful is the list is stream of consciousness. The list is everything I need to do. But they don't all need to be done on the same time frame. It's not like it's a list that I'm going to start at the top and work my way down, right? So what I started to do was write the list, stream of consciousness, and then go back in, and I've put in, I have things that I need to get done today, right? So I put today, and then I start to order them. Like some things, a lot of the things have deadlines, right? Some of the things I need to get done for this weekend, like we're doing our rhythm and beats on Saturday, and the playlist isn't finished. That's this Saturday. I need to get that done between now and Saturday, right? Some of the stuff is for next weekend, which is for the leather ceremony. So I need to get that
leather
stuff done.
Leather ceremony is next weekend?
Leather ceremony is next weekend. Time management. So I have stuff I have to get done between now and then, right? So sometimes I use my time well if I take a little time to plan how I'm going to use my time, right? And I'm sure that's in here somewhere. Creating a new daily plan, right? That's creating time intentionality.
This next weekend?
Yes, sir. A week from Saturday.
Fuck. Today's Monday?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Right?
It's my ADHD in real time.
Let's see. I'm making fish cakes, potatoes, and mixed veggies. Wow. I love it. I think you've got everybody talking about lunch. So a lot of what I just talked about is a lot of these things. I like this one called anticipating roadblocks, right? Because part of my challenge is making these lists and putting the deadlines and then thinking I'm going to get through everything. So some of what I've had to do is scale back my expectations. Because if I go into the day expecting myself to do more than is reasonable, I get to the end of the day and I feel like a failure. And that's not a good feeling, and it's not a productive feeling. I'm not going to do more work or get more done if I'm busy feeling like I didn't get enough done today. That's not helpful. So that's something that I do.
And the worst part is all of this stuff makes sense.
Well, speak a little bit to your thoughts, feelings, issues with time. And
So
using it
time wisely. So I go down a rabbit hole with this question because what I think about. Hi, Layla. What I think about is what am I supposed to be doing with my time? And I find myself sitting and talking with people a lot, having big conversations just randomly. Or I'll meet up with a friend and we'll just talk for a couple of hours when I could be doing something else. And it took me a while to understand that, well, that's where I'm supposed to be, is right there in that conversation. And that's where the conflict of, am I using my time wisely or could I use my time wiser, started to rub up against me, because I was like, I know I have shit to do, but I'm sitting here and I'm talking and I'm holding space and I'm learning from this person. I'm sharing and they're learning from me. And it's like we're having a really meaningful engagement. And it's like, well, that is time spent wisely.
Master Hurricane, I need a light bulb. I just had an idea. Because you and I have gone back and forth around this, right? You've said to me, I need lists. I need you to give me some some direction what to do. And I just realized that all these conversations, your probably biggest job in what we do in our partnership is project development. It's program development, which comes from your creative side, right? And you get fueled by these conversations that you have that allow you to think up the next thing, that allows you to stay spearheaded for us about program development. So that is part of what you need to do. That's not you not doing things you're supposed to do. When I have things I need you to do, I can tell you. But it's not like you don't have the same to-do list of stuff that I do.
I don't.
Because your job isn't the same as mine, thank God. Like if we did the same thing, there would be no reason for a partnership. You have what you do and I've got what I do. And yes, are there things you need to do? Like when I say we need to have pictures done by a certain time, when I'm like, you need to sit down with me and we need to like.
That's what I was doing last night too, is doing more photos.
Doing more photos for the 24th, right? Because if you want different pictures for the leather night,
you
need to get those curated,
That's
right?
What I have to do.
Or sometimes I need you to sit down with me, like we did, and knocked out what are the Thursday classes going to look like between now and the middle of September, which we did do. And the good news for you is that work that we do together, that I need you to be part of, doesn't really take that long once we do it.
Once we do it, no, we sit down and knock it out.
And then when you're not doing any of those things, you are free to do whatever feeds your creativity towards being able to come up with the next thing that we do. And it's not like we don't contribute to each other's things. You do things too. I help, we have creative conversations where I help flesh out what we're going to be doing, but the creative inspiration is yours, and the muscle behind the details and stuff is mine. And that's good, which means neither of us need to beat ourselves up or each other for how we're spending our time and what we're doing. See, I needed the light bulb. It went off. Bing. And listen, thank you guys for being here every day, and being witness to this process. These are the kind of questions that we have people go through in our intensive and in our mentorship program, and we help people to walk through these questions. But this is work we have to do as well. Look, I got light bulbs.
No, don't look.
No, I won't look. I just was looking at the screen. Thank you, Master Hurricane. Listen, I love having you guys here. Fatally Yours, Dead Girl, you guys who are showing up, it means a lot to me. I look forward to seeing you guys here every day. So what else? Oh, the anticipating roadblocks thing. What's most likely to hijack your time and energy and pull you off track? Phone or internet, friends or family requests, avoidance around difficult tasks. And in my case, I would be check. Like sometimes I get into the computer and I'm there to do a certain thing, and then an email pops up, or FetLife is open on my screen, or whatever. And then before I know it, I'm down some rabbit hole. I'm like, I'm not doing the thing I said I was going to do, and it's been like 15 minutes. So I have to be careful, because I do think that's some of the... but this book that I was telling you about, I promise if I don't have the title by today, I'll get it for you by tomorrow. I love that. You're adorable.
See? Like, so it'll be right here. So when you have an idea, oh, I got one.
I love that. That's really cute. That's
You
a pretty
like
light bulb, yeah. So, and I don't know that I have a plan yet. I mean, literally, I'm in the process of talking to a doctor about a diagnosis and medication and stuff, because I'm not sure how to stop from being that squirrel that goes down the rabbit hole and like loses. Where am I now? What am I focusing on? And you know, when I have stuff to get done. And the other thing I have to cop to is procrastinate. What was this thing? Avoiding difficult tasks. Sometimes I know I have things to do, and they literally make me feel angsty inside. And so I'll find other things to do that are things that need to be done, but probably not as much as the thing that I'm angsting about. And what I have learned is if I push myself through the angsty thing and get it done, I feel so much better. Otherwise, it's just hanging over my head, and I continue feeling blah about it. Like, so that's not good either.
I'm still stuck on that leather man.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. The more stuff that we put on the calendar, the more focused our time needs to be. Like I looked at what we have to do this week. For me, this week is like threading a needle. I have so much to do this week before we roll into the weekend, and then the next thing we know, it's like this month is going to fly by. And so the planning of it is important. When I look ahead, I do keep a calendar. We keep a joint calendar in our phones. So when I look at, hello everybody on Instagram, by the way. I see you all signing in.
Is this week out?
Correct. I'll fix it.
It's distracting to look up and see.
All right, fair enough. I'll make sure. We started keeping a calendar on a whiteboard, so I'll make sure that, and I'll go put in the next.
Sorry about that, Mom.
That's okay. I'll fix the lines. The lines are no big deal. I still prefer the lines to tape.
Yeah. All right.
So I'll make sure.
Oh my goodness,
I'll
there's
make
stuff
sure
to
I keep it
do.
up. Yes, there's so much to. I have help now. Yes, hi Paul. Yes, I just recently was given the gift of help.
You must have heard me because I was thinking that, but then the calendar distracted me. Because what I was visualizing was you being able to put things down so that you can do what you do.
Yes.
And you are the one who makes the connections. You're the one that goes out and speaks to people about collaborating and working with, and like you're the link between the Kink Collective and the people we work with.
Yes, and I have more time for that now because one of the mentees, and he's named himself, so I don't feel like I'm speaking out of turn, Paul, who's been in the mentorship program, who we've known for years, who's a dear friend, and lives out of state, but is really, really good at being an administrator, does administrative stuff at a really high level, and has volunteered graciously to help me. And we have had times this week when we changed from 6 to midnight, from 6 to 11. I just said, Paul, can you change the ones on the other 3 social medias? And he did it. The TikTok thing that I misspelled, I spelled it tick instead of TikTok, which someone had already brought to my attention. I was like, Paul, can you change that? And he went in and he changed everyone on that. Like, the freedom of mind that gives me,
it's liberating. It's
incredible.
Like you can take a deeper breath.
And yeah.
Paul, this is you. I'm hugging you too, Paul.
I am excited. He's going to be here next week.
Oh my goodness, already.
You're coming next week, and then you're going to be here for like 2 weeks. So exciting. I expect being able to get a lot done. And I suspect that I'll be giving you more passwords by the time you leave, because it's just incredible, the help. And yes, and that does for me. Because there's a lot of stuff, like as essentially the CEO of a company, I should not be spending as much time as I spend doing administrative assistant work, because it keeps me from doing my job.
Stuff that needs to happen.
My job is that stuff, like to go out and to network and to connect with people, and to seek out new avenues for like all that stuff. But I haven't had the presence of mind or the time to do it.
Oh, I feel it in my head. I get, when I get that tingle feeling that we're on the right track.
What, isn't that the like underdog?
My spider sense.
Didn't Underdog do that too?
I don't know.
Spider-Man does that. Spider-Man does that. Like you get that happening around your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
So look at all the people that have joined us on Instagram. Hi, Instagram.
So using the time wisely. So I go back to what am I supposed to be doing, right? And it took me a while to get over that hurdle of I need to be doing something else. I need to be doing something else. To being able to tell myself, well, I'm not a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 guy. So stop pushing yourself around those expectations of a Monday through Friday 9 to 5. And but once I got out of it, it got easier to work through those episodes, because it's not like I figure it out and then it's done. It's just about how long am I in that cloud of fear or doubt. Yeah.
For me, that's a little easier because I've only worked a 9 to 5 job for 11 months ever in my life. 11 months and 11 days, not that I was counting. I'm not a 9 to 5er, I never was.
So in the context of BDSM, using your time... did you go through all this list already?
I don't know that I went through all of it. I sort of jumped around. This is...
Yeah, I think you
pages. Did I go through all of it? Creating time, intentionality, new daily plan, prioritize, dreaded tasks.
So... in the context of the lifestyle.
This is one more. Say no more often. How many times do people ask you to do things? How many times do people put upon your time and you feel like you should say yes? Having the freedom to say no. Like, my time is valuable to me and I get to decide how I'm going to spend it. And I appreciate that you would like some of my time, but you'll have to handle it if I say, like, I don't have to say yes just because you asked.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I'm not a morning person at all. The best command I worked at didn't care when I came in, as long as the work got done, which was great. Dude, for real, when I had a staff sergeant who was very similar to that. And there was one day I called in sick in the military. You don't do that.
I was going to say, is there such a thing?
No, you don't do that. But I said, Staff Sergeant, listen, man, I can't make it in. He says, rest up, devil dog. I'll see you tomorrow. And then I saw him tomorrow, and we just kept moving, right? But anyway, time wisely. BDSM context. So there's a number of ways I can approach this. Use your time wisely. So when you meet someone, don't beat around the bush, right? Be transparent, be truthful with them, and expect the same in return. If they aren't giving it to you, if you don't feel that they have that same level of transparency, the wise time would be, let me not convince you to do work to get to me. It's like, my time could be used somewhere else, connecting with someone else who's willing to do the work that I'm doing, to be with me. So that's one way to use the time wisely, is when you see the red flag, take the red flag for what it is and move forward. Training. If you want to learn how to do something or you want to experience something, practice in it and use your time invested into the craft, whether you're top or bottom, so that you are also learning about safety and responsibility so that if and when you do connect with someone, you're able to gauge their level of experience regardless of what they've told you, and you can stay safe. So you're essentially hitting a few birds with one stone. Time wisely. Time frame. Prep. Learn how much time you need before you play, if you're playing in privately or in public, what that time frame is like. Understand what your skill level and energetic level is, your ability is, so that you're not negotiating an hour scene when you've only got 20 minutes, or vice versa, right? Where you come in, you've got the energy for 3 hours and you only negotiate 15 minutes, right? It's like, is that where you want to land on the spectrum? Like, is that you being transparent and truthful about your needs? And then the aftercare. So how much time, what am I trying to put in this time frame, and is that correct? Do I need more time or do I need less time? Right, so being mindful about how the time is being spent. And I come back to the communication part of it. If you're communicating as directly as possible, as clearly as possible, you're not spending more time trying to figure shit out. It's like you get to the point. So that's a couple words from my note taking. I'm going to go down this list as well.
I have some thoughts based on the things you just said. Right. So the first thing that you said was about talking with someone and seeing if they were being transparent with you, and are they worth your time? This is a once I know my value, who gets access to me extension, right? About my time, right? Once I know my own value, I know my self-worth, then I can negotiate how I spend my time based on that, right? Like, I don't have to spend more time than necessary with someone who isn't reciprocating, who isn't working at my level, right? Because I know my level and I know what I'm worth, right? So the use of time comes, I think, is it springs out of the self-value part. And the other thing that that occurred to me is the value of doing the kind of work we're talking about doing right here is by doing the work in advance, you get to use your time more wisely with people, because you're not fumbling around trying to figure it out, because you know how you feel about these things, you know what your thoughts are, what you want, what you don't want, so you can spend less time, waste less time basically, connecting with people who don't match, trying to do things that don't work, because you didn't not know. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So those are some of the ways this question ties into the work that we do and the work that we ask people to do.
So on Instagram, Obsidian said, people don't always know, and those needs change. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with spending time figuring it out. But that's the thing, Obsidian, is people will wait to the moment to discuss it, to figure it out, as opposed to understanding what's important for them in the long run, in the conversations, in mentorship, in communicating with people outside of the intention of those types of connections, right? Normalizing the conversation so you can have the space to talk about it, to process it, and you're not trying to figure it out at 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday. Because it's easy. It's not easy to know what you do want, but it's a lot easier to know what you don't want. I find that people spend more time backtracking because they felt the need to declare before they knew. 100%. Absolutely.
Right. No, those are all great observations.
100%.
One of the things that I've been guilty of, prior to doing the work that we do especially, is kind of going into conversations, not that I thought that I wasn't prepared, but really not doing the work up front, so that I sort of unconsciously was expecting to work it out as it was happening for myself. And that's not an effective use of my time, and it's not terribly respective of other people's time, right? I should know, not should, but it's more effective for me if I know what I want and what I'm looking for.
Even if it comes to the point of discussing listen, I don't know what I want, so work with me to discover it, versus I don't know what I want, show me everything you know.
Right. Right.
Being
Or
able
I
to
don't know what
advocate
I
in that
want,
part.
and I think I'll figure it out on the fly, like as we're talking, like somehow it'll be clear to me. And I'm just speaking for myself. Like I know I've been guilty of that. Yes, Obsidian, everybody does process differently. That's true.
Yeah.
And some people do process best in conversation. But I think it's important to know when you are processing with someone and when you're engaged in a conversation where you might have been better served having done that processing already.
So, I mean, for example, to Obsidian's point, when I work with clients, they don't know. And my role there is to walk them through what they're trying to figure out.
Right. But they've come to you for that.
Yeah.
They may not have known that's what they've come to you for, but they've come for you for help. Maybe because they don't even know what help they need. They just know they need help.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of an interaction than like trying to meet someone in the scene and think you're going to like negotiate to play together. And I think that's more effective when you've done your own work to know what you want, what you're looking for.
At least around the ability to say, I'm a yes until no person. So I give you the permission to explore. I'll figure it out as we're going. Mm-hmm. And if we hit a road bump, I'll communicate with you. And your job is to adjust to what I'm communicating.
That's
absolutely.
you from a dominant side or a top side. Or is that on both sides?
That'd be for me, period. Mm-hmm. Unless I'm asking for something in particular. Mm-hmm. But no, that's to the point of everyone processes differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes a person just wants you to lead, and they'll follow, understanding that they've done the work to understand that that's how they function.
Yes, and that's different than just expecting someone to do the work for you, which is what happens when people don't know themselves, right? You show up in conversations and unconsciously maybe sort of expect, and this does happen stereotypically when people see themselves as being submissives or bottoms. They show up and they expect the top to figure it out, know for them. The comments like, whatever you want, I'll do whatever you want. Well, you haven't thought through what you want. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to think through what we want out of our interactions, no matter what side of the slash we're on, right? And, so that's the thing. I'm going to look at these comments for a second. Yes. Transparency and reciprocation. Yes. The wee-woos had bad timing. I don't know what that means. That's why you technically never stop vetting and communicating and studying your people. Absolutely. And you do have to make time. Yes. Starship says you have to make time for communication prior to starting anything also. Yes. And both sides for you. Yes, Master Hurricane. Absolutely. So you guys are right on. We're all sort of in the same vein here talking about. I would love to hear specific ways that you guys do this, like specific ways that you manage your time, that you get connected before. It's of the comments that were said. For me, that would definitely come in with different forms of play, if it's for experience or more set ways. Yeah, I mean, I suppose, one of the things that we don't talk about that much is the difference between pickup play and committed play partners, not even relationships, right? Dynamics are even different than people who play together regularly. What kind of work do you do for your partner, for yourself, if you're engaged with someone who you play with regularly? How does that relationship develop? Like people who have like committed relationships with other people and they just have play partners. So some of, I think, what we could spend a little bit more time looking at, or how are these things made manifest in different kinds of BDSM relationships? Not necessarily right here, right now, but that was sort of a stream of consciousness thought.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, we do MIT-PISA, which is our type of shorthand negotiation, which we'll talk about at some point. We talk about doing that, like if you're at a party and you're meeting someone for the first time and you decide to play, what kind of negotiation do you need to be safe, right? And that works also if it's the same person and you meet at another party. But what about a play partner who you're going to engage with regularly, right? We have a long form of negotiation, or is that different than like what you just said about it's yes until it's no? That's like an overall sort of philosophy about how you engage with people, that it's yes until it's no. But you don't have that with new people that you meet at a party, do you? You do. How does that work?
So it's all dependent on the conversation, on what's happening, depending on how they process, right? So if a person says, if the person doesn't get the concept of going up increasingly, or they don't know their scale. So it's like, how about I go and I'll raise it soft and slowly, and I'll check in with you, and you'll let me know when.
Like when it's enough?
When is enough.
When you get to a threshold?
Mm-hmm. Just so that you can start exploring these sensations. But the other thing is, the responsibility is expected to be on my lap, to make sure that this person doesn't get harmed.
And you take that on
and
by
I
way
take that
of
on
this
by
philosophy you have. So
Yeah.
you're willing to be responsible because this is the way you prefer to interact.
It's not about preference. It's about the way to get them from point A to point B in the most direct, efficient, and safe manner, so that they still have room to experience and observe the spectrum of what they're going through, and to know how to communicate it back and forth with me. And it sets like a baseline, right? So it's like, if that is what works best for this individual, because they don't have the language to articulate anything else, or anything beyond this, this is the road we'll go. If the other person says, if they give me something different, like they can gauge me, start soft, then we're gonna, 99% of the time it's gonna be start soft. Of course, start soft. But there's the people who want to move up the spectrum,
Right.
and aren't sure where.
And there's people who like to start hard, but those people have done the work to know themselves because they know enough about themselves to know that.
Not all of them. Not all of them. Some people use that as a way to re-traumatize their body and get into the out-of-body experience, the checking out.
So how is it that you can tell the difference?
Why are you doing this? You listen. You listen for the conversation. Oh, I love the feeling. I like getting out of my body. Right? If they're aiming for subspace, well, what happens? I get to, they lead. You can just
hear it.
Hear
So you know what you're looking for when you have these conversations.
Because I'm also not trying to get anybody into subspace.
Right.
Right? So if you want me to hit you hard, what's going on? Because I'm not trying to hit you. I don't care. Listen, I don't want to hit you hard. I want to get you to say yes. I want you to desire what I'm giving you versus needing me to give you something.
How, just while we're down this rabbit hole, how does that affect you differently? Like, if you have one person that does one and one does the other?
Well, I'm the kink dispenser for the other. I'm
when someone says,
fix.
hit me hard because I just want to feel like that, that's somebody.
I'm your fix.
Right.
Versus, how can you seduce this desire out of me? And not necessarily in sexual, but to seduce submission, seduce release, seduce mindfulness and presence. Right, so that the only thing you could think about is what's happening to you right now.
I like that. I hadn't seen it like that.
And that's another way of using time wisely. Right, I want to make sure what you're getting from me is what we've agreed upon, and I don't feel like I'm being used. Because there's times I felt used at the end of a play, and not session work or not scenes, but play personally with people. I felt used in the past, and it's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I bet not. And I think, I have.
So
Nice catch.
it's like, it comes back to if you want me to paint with you, let me paint.
Yes.
Sorry, let the fire truck go by.
Yeah. No, Master Hurricane is asking how you know the difference between trauma play scenes versus kink dispenser, and how do you navigate those two?
Well, the discussion has to be intentional, right? I want to dive into this type of scene because, and then we go into the history around what it was. If it's face slapping, if it's a number of things. But the idea is to know that we're going there and to discuss the trail, to discuss the risks and the vulnerabilities, to discuss the possible outcomes, the safety nets, to really get an understanding of the area that we're going into versus someone just saying this is the type of play they like. And it's like they're internalizing the experience while it's happening to them.
Well, some of the challenge with trauma, with engaging with BDSM where there's trauma involved, is the difference between healing and re-traumatizing.
Yeah, and this is doing it with intention.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can go into it and not know that you're going to be triggered by a past trauma, and that's a totally different experience than knowing that you enjoy this because the fear is the same feeling as excitement in the body, right? So it's like you're getting this rush of feelings in your body, and it's, oh my God, it's so exciting, it feels so, and then comes the back end of it, of all the feelings and the things that haven't been processed and everything attached to it. And that's what brings the tailspin in. And then, of course, you have to watch for the aftercare. What if the person doesn't communicate the reasons? Because aftercare would be different. That's it right there. They're using it to access it. It's like, if we're going to do this, I need to understand your relationship with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm also not doing it, unless it's a client, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for us, and I'm doing this for me. So it's like, unless we talk about this is what you need when it comes to that area. But rarely, I'd have to think about it, but it's been a minute since I've stepped into those waters around someone looking to experience something like that without us addressing it beforehand numerous times. Because it's also, I know a lot of the landmines, right? So in the conversations, we're all the same. We're not different. Like, it looks different on the outside, but what's happening on the inside is all the same. So the actions that get us there, the feelings that get us there, the perspectives that get us there are very similar. So once I see one of these patterns, it's like those are, and the person doesn't even have to know it. It's like, well, talk to me about this because I need to know. And when they start unpacking it, do they see their connection to the trauma, to the lack of safety or vulnerability, or the desire of safety and vulnerability through what we're about to do, but they couldn't even put words to it yet. But this just comes from me doing this shit consistently.
You know how this ties back to the topic for me is the time that you spend in advance is the wise time. That allows the time on the back end, the time we're actually engaged, to be better time, more productive time, less traumatizing time, less messy time, right? So you invest that time up front.
There's a difference between fixing the leak and mopping the floor. I forgot where I heard that one from, but when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, that's genius.
I love that.
I never considered that my trauma might be the reason why I enjoy topping, but feel a little shame degrading others even when I know that they enjoy it. Thank you so much for sharing that, and welcome. Yeah, here's something else to consider. Why you prefer one role over another? Is it a trauma response? Is it about safety? Is it about power, or is it about connection? Because there's a lot of tops out there, a lot of dominants who haven't bottomed because of the absence of safety. There's a lot of bottoms out there who don't want to top because of the lack of trust, self-trust, responsibility, like the fears, right? I'm afraid of responsibility, so I don't want to go on that side. I'd rather be on this side. Well, why are we afraid of responsibility? It's like you can really start breaking down a lot of these walls if you ask yourself, well, what's stopping me from going to the other side?
Yeah, and it never even, I don't know that it occurred to me until right now that topping is a trauma response.
Oh yeah. Oh, you control. That's all about control.
where in response to when you didn't have control in your life at some earlier time.
Yep. It's about control and autonomy. For anyone who was a dom top, power top, super master, ask them, when was the last time you bottomed and why not?
I know that part of it, but it never connected as a trauma response to me.
99% of the time, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because everyone needs an outlet. The body, forget about the titles, the body needs an outlet of sensation, of stimulation, of rest, of relaxation, of vibration, of receiving. Every physical body needs that. It's like going through life without being touched. It doesn't work that way. Why don't you? And then they open that door. Well, why that? And so they get down to the little fucking seed of it all.
Yeah.
And everybody, well, I don't like it because I used to have to hug my Aunt Margaret and she smelled like fucking mothballs and left her makeup all over my face. Right? It's like, well, now we're getting somewhere, right?
Right. That's interesting because in other areas I've used this issue of why, like rolling back the whys. Well, why that? Well, why is it like that? And then it sounds like that's a similar thing. Well, why do you feel like that? Well, why does that bring up? Until you get down to the ant with the mothballs and the makeup all over the face. Like that's, and I guess that for a lot of people, myself included, sometimes that I don't know what's at the bottom of the why pile, right? Like where has it stemmed from? What's the ontological point of what I'm experiencing today? Like if I will only top, and what's behind that is a lack of control from when I was young. Like I don't always have that connection right away. I have to have that rolled back for me.
And that's the cool part about it is like you're not expected to stop anything. You just need the awareness of why you're doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So that you can start asking yourself the questions. Like
it changes everything.
It changes everything. I never try to convince anyone to do what they don't want to do. What I will ask you is, how did you get here, and why are you here?
Like, why don't you want to do it?
And then what's the opposite? Because it won't even be about that; it'll be about vulnerability, right? So tell me about, and I love it. Anyone who introduces themselves as goddess, master, mistress, shit like that. Like I try to get the conversation into these areas, because I need to know what type of person you are, because this is going to tell me how much work you've been doing,
right?
Around the ability to be vulnerable, because. Go ahead, Mama. Go ahead.
No, because you've talked about that. I mean, I'm frustrated by it in general because it just seems like posturing to like introduce yourself by your honorifics, right? Mm-hmm. But I never heard this argument that you have here with it about why people do that. Like that you just said, that it's either insecurity or control or whatever.
99% of the time it's persona, it's a mask.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
because I need to convince you of something.
Okay, yes, exactly, yeah. Right? And it's like, only because I've been around a lot of professionals, we've done DomCon a million fucking times, like I've done this. The only time, depending on how a person approaches or represents themselves in the space of the energy of the space. So like if we're at a munch at some fucking dive bar, and some guy comes in and says, "Hi, I'm Master such and such." It's like, I get it, but I'm not
Well, when you go to a munch, how do you introduce yourself?
Fucking Joshua.
Right.
Because the lifestyle is how I operate. It's not who I am. Right? I'm not Master Joshua everywhere I go. To some people, I'm Master Joshua, but that's by their choice. Right. Right? And beyond.
Because I've heard you talk about that. Like, you accept honorifics from people when they feel so moved to give them to you, but you don't demand anybody call you any certain kind of way.
I can't. Unless we're in a high protocol space, and that's the expectation of the evening. Even then, it's difficult for me to expect anyone to do that shit, right? So it's like, I was at this high protocol thing one time. It's like, Master Joshua. Like, ah. And I get it, but it goes back to me wanting to earn it from somebody, and I guess it comes down to that imposter syndrome, because a lot of people do say it, and they do say that about me.
Yeah, because you deserve it and you've earned it. Just in general, a lot of times for people out there who maybe are not. don't engage with you directly, but they recognize you, your contribution, how you are in the world. It's like respect. You know, like when I was a kid, children were never spoke to adults by their first names. You always were either aunt, uncle, or Mr. or Mrs. Like we never, as kids, said, "Hey, Joshua." Like
I still do that.
We know we were never allowed to do that, right? There's kind of like that feeling about it. It's like a sign of respect for who they know you to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I could see like if you had imposter syndrome around that, right? And there's a certain degree of acceptance to the fact that you've earned your honorific. You've earned master. And you don't command it. You don't lead with it. But if someone wants to offer it to you, or someone because I've seen plenty of people do it. I've seen plenty of people go to say, I know, like Master Joshua, like they pull themselves back because they want to show you respect. And it's respect you've earned and you deserve. You're like, okay.
I'll sit with that.
Enough of that. What have we missed? I know we've missed stuff in here. This is a vanity thing. I don't like having to have my glasses on all the time, so I can't read what everybody's writing.
Fucking Joshua. Let's see. I've been spending a lot of time on Twitter FinDom spaces. I didn't do it outside of my private space until I found my public community. But for me, it's still Hurricane or Mickey if it's not with my safe spaces. Just because it's so interesting to me, and I stumbled into a group that tried to educate. It shouldn't be an expectation on others. For me, sometimes it's safe spaces, it's a form of respect and rank. We grew up in the same way. It's about respect, yes. I agree with Kat. Absolutely. That's what I taught my children and grandchildren. Yes, agreed. Respect. Yep, absolutely.
In the military, would you ever refer to someone who was higher ranking than you by their first name only?
No.
You refer to people by their rank, right? In the military?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of BDSM that patterns itself from the military or has as its origins that sort of structure. So in some ways, people referring to you as master is like acknowledging your rank.
Serious. It's always been. I'll sit with that.
Okay.
I'll sit with that. Thank you, Mama.
Yeah.
All right. So, time wisely, I think we spent
another hour.
Another
Another hour's come and
today.
gone. Topic, incidental, ancillary conversations to the topic, but I do think that there's a lot here in terms of time management.
And compassion.
Yeah.
And compassion in what you're doing with your time. Because ultimately...
Master Hurricane says the rabbit hole was fun.
Ultimately, it's like you have to be kind with yourself. And if you find
Yes.
yourself drifting off and in La La Land one day, it's okay.
The most helpful thing that I've heard in the last few months was friends of ours that have their own business. They're a little bit further ahead in terms of the development of their business. And one day he sat down with me and he said, look, there are going to be times where you can't get anything done. There's going to be times where you just, no matter how hard you try, you just can't get it together that day to do anything because then you can't beat yourself up. It's just part of running your own business. It was such a relief because in those blank spots where I would have time where I just couldn't, I know I have stuff to do and my brain is so fogged and I can't see my way clear to do something, and then I beat myself up on top of it. So it was really a great relief to have someone whose business is more advanced than mine, who's they're not more successful, they're just further down the road, to turn to me and say, you're right where you're supposed to be, you're doing okay, there's nothing wrong with where you are. It was a great relief to me. So, Raheem, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So tomorrow is Tuesday. What would living true to yourself look and feel like is the question we're coming up on. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm sure there's things that I'll be able to process in this question.
Listen, thank you, all of you, for coming and for participating and for your comments. As I suspected when this started, I feel like I get so much more out of this than you possibly could be, and so I'm just grateful for your presence and grateful for you to be here with us and have these conversations. And I'm grateful for you.
Thank you, Mama.
All right, well, I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Wait, let me
what
see
else?
what was coming. Okay. Tuesday nights are going to be insane. All right, folks. We shall see you guys later. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention. We will chat with you guys
Tomorrow at 12.